Hello folks, we're here in downtown Gulfport and I am Chef Jack. You're in the kitchen with Chef Jack today. We're going to make cheeseburger soup, like the ultimate cheeseburger. We're going to have mushrooms and bacon, ground beef. We're going to finish off with some diced tomatoes and pickles, cheddar cheese, Swiss cheese, you name it, we're going to put in it. Now you can make this healthy or unhealthy if you want. So today we're going to do it with ground beef. You can do it with turkey, you can do it with chicken. It's really up to you. It's all what you like. You can do different cheeses. It's all on how, whatever you like. I'm just going to teach you the basics. So basically you just want to have a 6-quart pot, a little bit bigger. We're going to make a little bit more than a gallon today. Only it's a gallon for the recipe. Cutting board or knife. We have a whip, a large spoon, spatula, towel, and then all our ingredients. So we got ground beef, beef stock, we got shredded cheddar and Swiss cheese, fresh spinach, milk, onions, potatoes, diced tomatoes, fresh mushrooms, salt, pepper, a little Worcestershire sauce, cornstarch, and fresh bacon. And we're going to top it off with some scallions, sour cream, and little diced tomatoes and some diced pickles. All right? So we start on medium-high, and we're going to start with our fresh bacon. And while that's cooking, we're going to cut up our onions. So basically what you want to do with the onion, take your knife, kind of hold the bottom of it, and it comes right off. All right? And just peel it on the outside, just come right off. And we're going to do one red, one white onion. Use Vitalias, you just pick whatever you like. Same thing. Peel it right off. You want to just cut it in half, and then you want to take the part, not the part with the end, because that's how people fry. Do the opposite side, slice a little bit. And dice it up. Switch this around so we can see. So you just want to cook your bacon a couple minutes, because that's going to be the grease that's going to use to cook your onions. You don't have to add anything else. Toss in your onions. White onion. You can smell the bacon already.
Jack, how do you cut onions without tearing up? Is there a certain way you go about doing that?
Yeah, when you peel them off, you want to take the end part that's kind of like the end of kind of like the blossom, that end, cut on the opposite side. You make that the last thing that you cut. Or some people put it in the refrigerator, or you can put it in ice water, they say. If you peel and put it in ice water, it supposedly won't make you cry as much. And then we're going to just add a little pound of ground beef. And most of the soups that we do, take about 20 to 30 minutes. And of course I made a batch beforehand, so we'll be having that. This probably won't be done by the time we finish the show. So I made a sample last night. I'm going to let that cook up. And next what you want to do is you're going to put in your salt. Those onions were a little strong. A little pepper. I put a teaspoon of each. You don't need a lot of salt because there's going to be a little bit of salt in your beef base, a little in the Worcestershire sauce.
Can turkey or pork be used as a substitute for the meat there?
Yes, if you want to do it low fat, you can use ground turkey. You can actually do roasted chicken if you like, and you can put whatever you like. And we're trying to put a lot more vegetables in. That's why I like to put fresh spinach and everything, because it's a good vegetable to put in and you don't even notice it. So we'll take our sliced mushrooms. Now with the mushrooms, you just hold it, certain way, just hold it like on the side, take the tip of your knife, and you'll slice it. Toss those in. Crushed tomatoes, or diced tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes, but we're going to use a little fresh tomatoes for our garnish instead. Alright.
A lot of what you're using is fresh. How would frozen work? Could that be used as well?
Yeah, you can do frozen spinach if you'd like. You can have the potatoes. They have frozen potatoes now, corn, vegetables. I would prefer frozen over canned. Can is really salty. If you're going to use can, just make sure you rinse it really well with cold water and then strain it. We're just going to make little small potatoes and just do a small dice. Make sure, of course, you wash your potatoes real good. I keep the skin on, and make just more vitamins. And a lot of the stuff you can just prep beforehand. I mean, you have to do it like this, cook as we go.
What kind of potatoes are you using?
These are rustic potatoes. You can use red potatoes, Yukon Jacks. It's really, a lot of stuff is what you want to use. You just don't want to use like baking potatoes. They're very watery, so you don't want to use those. I mean, there's all ways you can do it. I mean, I could have done this where we could have taken some potatoes and used mashed potatoes as the thickener instead. And you have that potato flavor. But since we're doing kind of like a cheeseburger soup, I'm kind of putting in the potatoes just to have some kind of like complex carb starch in there. I'm trying to do it all in one meal. So you're going to have your vegetables, your fresh spinach, cheese, tomatoes and stuff like that. So then we'll just add our beef stock. And like I said, if you're using turkey or something else, you can use, chicken stock, or you can use just water. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to have all the salt in there. It doesn't really need that. Because you're going to get all the flavor from all the vegetables and the meat and everything like that. Basically, you want to just bring this to a simmer. And then we're going to do our fresh spinach. Because you gotta, before we can put the milk in the swirl, you want to bring your soup up to like a simmer, just not a boiling, just a simmer. You're going to toss it in with the milk because you don't want to make sure you don't want it bubbling. If it's too hot, the cornstarch will thicken up like glue, so you don't want that.
Did you use a certain fat content in your ground beef?
You can. It's really, you can use 90% if you want to do, less fat in there. It's really up to you. I mean, if you're worried about the grease, then do the higher percentage, or you can always cook the ground beef beforehand, then strain it, and then get all that grease out. That'd be another way of doing it. And so right now what I'm doing with the spinach, it's kind of called a chiffonade. So it's kind of like a shred. So you want it really thin because when you're trying to eat soup and the spinach is whole, it just gets all over the place. It's very messy. So I kind of cut up a little more.
If you've watched any of Jack's videos in the past, I think every recipe he's done so far has had spinach in it.
It's the best.
Maybe 90%, yeah.
Yeah.
He hides it well.
Well, like when you make broccoli cheddar, I mean, you can put fresh spinach, it actually makes the soup a little bit greener, and people don't even notice it. It's a good vegetable. Put in. I even put it in my beer cheese soup. There's really nothing you can't put it in. And then a lot of soups you can use, you know, for other things, like we made a shrimp bisque or mushroom burrito. You can take that, put it over casserole, put it over chicken, you know, fillets or whatever, and make it as a sauce. Put it over pasta. We did like a artichoke Florentine, which is just fresh spinach, artichokes, little cream cheese, some fresh tomatoes, a little basil. Put that over pasta with a little chicken. So soups can be, you know, used multi-purposes. So what we normally do is we'll make the soups and we put them in little 12-ounce containers or 16-ounce, depending on, you know, or if it's two people, then you put it in a 20-ounce container. You can put them in a freezer and then you just take them out periodically when you want to make something, either a pasta or a sauce or just have soup, just take it out the day before and it's all ready for you. So this is something easy. You make about a gallon, so it'll make about 6 to 8 soups for you. And then you can just take them out periodically. All right. So, we add our milk. I'm just going to put a little milk in first, kind of to cool it down a little bit.
Whole milk?
You can use whole milk. I use 2% this time. You can use whole milk. You can use heavy cream if you really want to. You can make it as fattening as you want or as unfattening as you want. Like when I make beer cheese soup, you can do it with real roux, with flour and oil, or you can do cornstarch and water, which is going to cut the fat down almost half. So I just took the cornstarch, just want to mix it in with the milk real good. Pour it into your soup, and what it'll do is slowly, as it's heating up, will slowly thicken it a little. And I'm not trying to make it real thick, I just want it just to make it so it's not so soupy, nice thick. Not like a chili, more like a, kind of like a chowder. So it'll be nice. When that's going, we're going to just toss in our cheese. So I did a little shredded Swiss, a little shredded cheddar, and then we're just going to let this cook. It'll probably take about 20-25 minutes. Keep it on, what you'll do is you'll turn it down to like medium, and then just let it cook down. And that's pretty much it.
Wow.
So what we're going to do is I made a little batch last night, so we have a little sample. So what we're going to do is we're going to slice a few tomatoes. I like Roma tomatoes because...
When you owned your own restaurant out in Pinellas Park, you kind of got the name as a soup guru out there. Did you
Yes.
use a lot of your leftovers from your sandwiches and
Yeah,
your
when I used to do a lot of
meals?
caterings, I made up a lot of different soups. Like we did, like, you know, spinach and artichoke. That's how I came up with the Florentine soup. It was basically, you know, as a dip one night, and made a lot of it. So we took the spinach dip and then just thin it down with a little more milk. Put some fresh tomatoes, a little more extra garlic in there, and then chopped up some more artichokes, and then just thickened it up and made a soup out of it.
Yeah.
Or like we made a Spartan chowder where we did an Italian night, so we had roasted peppers and onions and sausage. So I decided to make a Spartan chowder out of it, just like the wing and clam chowder. So I used the sausage as the basis of the clams. Then I put some diced onions, put the roasted peppers in there, some milk, potatoes. Most of the recipes come up with basically mostly leftovers.
Do you usually use fresh artichokes or do you use marinated artichoke?
Yeah, usually the marinated ones, because fresh for soup, they're too hard. You couldn't cook them down enough
Okay.
to make them good with the soup. Even when I make the soup, sometimes I like to use the hearts. Sometimes because you can really puree those really good. Sometimes when you have the leaves and stuff, you know, you'll have little bits and pieces. So I try to use more of the heart when I do it that way. All right.
Yeah.
So next, we're going to make little samples for everybody. So I made a batch the other night.
I've been cooking 8 months. I'm wondering about the timing there. You said 20 to 30 minutes. what did, that was till the beef was brown, right?
Yeah, after the beef is ground, because it's going to take about 20-30 minutes for the spinach, your potatoes and everything to get nice and cooked. So you kind of put the potatoes right in the beginning. So as you see, it kind of has that like light brown consistency. It's not too thick, but you have your potatoes, your fresh spinach, tomatoes.
So,
And then whoever would like to come up and have samples. Oops. Yes, any other questions?
yeah,
It looks
and then
delicious.
further, okay, now you've got the ground beef, but then the rest of the cooking takes about how long?
After the ground beef, in the first 5-10 minutes of the ground beef, it's another 20 minutes.
Oh, so the whole thing is 30 minutes?
Yeah, the whole thing takes about 30 minutes.
okay.
And it depends on how, like, see how small I cut the potatoes?
Yeah.
So the bigger one's going to, of course, take longer. So you want to make a small dice, and that's going to make a difference. Because basically you're going to wait until, basically once the potatoes are done, it'll all be cooked down.
Okay,
So that's really all you're waiting on.
yeah.
Today we did it a little bit fast, so it's going to take a little bit longer. Because normally I would have waited, probably another 10 minutes before I added the cheese, because that's the last thing you want to put in, is your milk and swirl. Then you put your cheese basically as the last thing. So when you put your cheese in, your soup's almost done, because that's when you're doing it. So after the 20 minutes, you're going to put that cheese in. You just want that to just kind of melt, and then you're pretty much finished. So really at the end, I would put the cheese in really right before it's done. But since we're doing it as a class today, I wanted to do it a little bit faster, so we kind of did that.
And you said you can use any kind of cheese.
Yeah, whatever you like. Swiss sometimes gets a little thick, but I like cheddar. Mozzarella's a good one too. Monterey Jack's another good one that you can use for soups. It melts really good and it holds. And actually, the cornstarch actually helps hold it and keeps it bind. So that's why I kind of like to use a little bit of cornstarch for thickening. All right, who's ready for a little sample? So normally what I do is, now, it's up to you guys. You don't have to have the pickles on it, but try to make it like a,
A real cheeseburger.
yep.
Well, it looks beautiful. Certainly looks appetizing.
Yeah, it's fun.
I guess I'll be the first one.
Yeah,
since no one
Yeah,
else-
try it. You let us know if it's all right.
See if he does.
It's delicious.
Yum.
So do you
course
want
it's
us to
good.
come up there, or how do you want us to
Sure.
do this to work?
All right,
Yeah,
everybody can,
we'll go ahead and load them up on the dolly
Car?
and we'll bring them around, yes.
okay. All right.
Okay, let's talk about mushrooms.
Okay.
So do you wash your mushrooms?
Yes, I washed them prior.
So you just don't rub on them? Some people say don't wash mushrooms.
No, you should just wash it really quickly because, a lot of times, especially at the bottom of the container, you have all that brown stuff. You don't want any dirt in your mushrooms.
And
But
you-
don't do it way ahead of time because that's
Okay.
when they turn, yeah,
Oh,
funky.
And you leave this, I noticed you left the stems
Stems.
on.
Yep, I'll leave it all on. I don't waste anything. You can
Good.
use it all. The only time I ever take the stems off, like when you use portobellos,
Uh-huh.
because they're thick stems. But a lot of times I would take those and use those to make more of a stock beforehand. Because those make a nice mushroom stock. Just save the stems. And a lot of the stuff you can save, like say you do it one day, you can take the stems, put it in a baggie, put it in your freezer, and then use it later on if you want to make a nice vegetable stock or whatever. Use those mushrooms. It's really good.
Okay.
I mean, they're very strong mushrooms, so they give a nice flavor.
Is there any vegetable you can't freeze?
Cucumbers, stuff like that. I used to like parsley. You can freeze carrots, celery, onions. I used to, like in the restaurant, we would save our onions because every day we would make fresh sliced onions and tomatoes. We'd keep a whole gallon bag of like tomatoes. If we didn't use them that day, because I wanted to do fresh every day, we'd put them in a bag. Once I got a full one, then I'd make like marinara sauce, regular tomato sauce, put them in soups. I would do the same thing with cheese. You save all the end pieces, even with all the meats and stuff that we used to do. Say I wanted to do like split pea and ham. I take all my end pieces of ham, use that, or I do like a mac and cheese casserole. So there's a lot of things you can use up. People, you don't have to throw everything away. You pretty much can put almost every vegetable in a stock. Like the onions, like the peels of the onions, or the ends of the celery or carrot peelings and stuff. Put those in bags and you can make a nice stock out of that. Make a vegetable stock if you want, or a lot of things is people take fresh chicken, just put the fresh chicken in cold water, then put all that, your onion peelings, your carrots, just get a gallon bag, your parsley stems and all that, put it all in the stock pot and just let it simmer for like a couple hours, and you got a beautiful stock, and you just drain it.
Nice.
Instead
I
of
noticed
going
that
up
your knife is really, really sharp. How often do you sharpen your knives?
Usually, probably once a month. And you don't really have to sharpen, and a lot of times, actually I have it, I don't have it with me right now, but the steel. If you use that steel, it actually keeps it sharpened.
But there's
At
an
home.
art to doing that stuff.
Well, no, not really, but the steel, it's not that hard. I mean, it's just, because there is on the steel, hold on,
There's a stop on it.
yeah, there's a little stop, there's a little thing, so you won't cut your hand. I mean, I would watch, I wouldn't just do it like blindly. And
Yeah,
do
right,
it.
right.
But, and then there's very few places that'll sharpen it right now, but actually Ace Hardware on Seminole Boulevard is one of the few places you can bring your knives. It's $1 a knife to sharpen your knives. Because you usually cut your fingers on dull knives,
Yeah.
not sharp knives.
There's a guy who comes to the Tuesday market here in Gulfport.
Oh, yes, I have seen him.
Who sharpens knives.
Yeah, but,
He's expensive.
yeah, he charges $1 an inch.
Yeah.
So a 7-inch knife costs you $7. A 10-inch,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a lot of knives like I do, it costs me about $120. Most of my, a lot, I have, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 chef knives and different ones. It all depends on what you like. Like this is just an 8-inch. Some people like the longer 10-inch. There's a 6-inch chef knife. It's all on what feels good. Like I showed, there's different ways of cutting. Like sometimes, well, I don't have a mushroom now, but there's called the boating. So you kind of slide your hand like this. Or like I do in the front where you just use the tip. So there's just lots of ways, just what you feel comfortable. You should always have your fingers like this when you're cutting. Always have your index, your middle finger here, and the knife never leaves it. So when I'm cutting, it never leaves it. So I don't even have to look at it, it's just sitting. It never goes that high. You don't, a lot of people I see go like this.
Yeah.
That's how you chop your finger off, because you're too high. If it never leaves the board, you can't chop your finger off. I've had a few cuts over the years, but nothing major.
Interesting.
For somebody that's new to cooking, what 3 to 5 utensils would you highly recommend somebody has in the kitchen?
Or spend money on.
Yeah, chef knife, paring knife, if you want the small knife. Kind of like a fillet knife or more of a boning knife, because those are good. And then a bread knife, serrated. I used to like to use serrated for a lot of things, not only just bread. I used to use the serrated knife for cutting potatoes and stuff. It doesn't stick as easily. That's probably the secondary one I would like. The serrated is one of the better ones. And then always have a steel. Like I said, to clean it up. This is Chef Jack. I'd like to invite you to our next viewing class. We're going to be doing chicken avocado soup. We're going to have it on Wednesday, August 18th, starting at 4 p.m. Please call the Senior Center to sign up. Seating is limited. We're up to 25 people. Please join us, and you'll have a great time and delicious soup.